Hey guys, so we are going to read chapter 10 of Freak the Mighty together here. We're going to do this just like we do in class. I'm going to go through the questions with you for chapter 10 on the study guide, and then we are going to read chapter 10 together, answering the questions as we go. Okay, so let's get started here. The questions for chapter 10 in your study guide, and you should have your study guides out. If you don't, you need to pause the video, get them out. Okay, here are the questions. Number 1, why does Grim give Max a sorrowful look after Max says that Freak is not a poor boy? Why might this be important later? 2, what is going to happen at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, and why that time? 3, why can't Max fall asleep at night? 4, how do Max and Freak disguise themselves? 5, where are Freak and Max going on their quest? 6, what do they find? How did it get there? And who does it belong to? Those are the questions for chapter 10. It's going to be a very interesting one, guys. So we're going to start reading on chapter 10. It's called Rats or Worse. And again, a reminder, the first question we're going to be looking for, why does Grim give Max a sorrowful look after Max says that Freak is not a poor boy? And why might this be important for later? Okay, chapter 10. One thing that happened over the summer, I grew even more. Grim takes a look at me one day and he goes, all that walking you do, it must be stretching out your legs. And carrying poor Kevin around, that seems to be putting real muscle on you. He's not that heavy. And anyhow, it's not fair everybody always says poor Kevin just because he didn't grow. Grim gives me this long, sorrowful look, and then he clears his throat and says, you're quite right. He is a rather remarkable boy. He's memorized almost the whole dictionary. You can ask him anything, and he knows what it means. You don't say, Grim says. And he has this smug look like maybe Freak is lying and like a total goon. Like maybe Freak is lying and a total goon like me would never get it. And I want to tell him he's wrong about Freak in the dictionary, but instead I would just shut my face and go down under. Okay, so here we have found the answer to question 1. Why did Grim give Max a sorrowful look after Max says that Freak's not a poor boy? Why might this be important later? The first half of this question you guys can get from the book. Okay? The second half, why might this be important later? You need to make an educated guess, right? An inference about what might happen. Okay? You can pause the video, answer that question. We're going to move on to number 2. What is going to happen at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, and why that time? We are at the top of page 60. Here we go. Grim, he's okay sometimes. Like when Tony D chased us into the pond, but most of the time he thinks he knows everything, which he doesn't. And if you don't believe me, look under Grim in the dictionary. It sure doesn't say a smart grown-up. No way. So I'm hanging out down under, listening to some of my thrash tapes on the fake Walkman I got last Christmas when Freak pops up on the side of my bed. Because of the headphones and the volume being pumped up to mega decibel, I never hear him come in. He's just suddenly there, like, whoa. And I bet I jumped about a foot. Freak rolls his eyes and goes, ah, music, how it calms the savage beast. How'd you get here? Would you believe teleportation? No? Then I came down through the bulkhead door like always. And like always, I have a quest in mind. Right away I go, my feet hurt. We don't have to leave this neighborhood. Cool. What kind of quest is this? Freak grins. A treasure hunt. Except we don't really have to hunt because I already know where the treasure is. Where? Underground, he says. Specifically in the sewer. Yeah, right, I say and sit back down on the bed. Freak is looking at me sideways and I can tell he's not telling me everything, which he almost never does, not all at once. Truth, he says. The treasure is hidden in a storm drain. This has been confirmed by visual observation. Treasure and a storm drain? You mean like gold and diamonds kind of stuff? Possibly, he says, acting mysterious. Anything is possible. The deal is we have to wait until night so no one can see us messing with the storm drain. Not just night, Freak says. We need to do it at exactly 3 in the morning. Optimum darkness occurs at 0300 hours, he says, looking at the new watch his mom gave him, the kind that tells you what time it is in Tokyo, just in case you're wondering. We must dress in black and cover our faces with soot. All right, so let's come back over here to question 2. What is going to happen at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, and why that time specifically? We just came across that answer here on page 61. So write your answer, pause the video if you need to, and we are going to move on to question 3. Why can't Max fall asleep at night? Okay, we're at the top of page 62. For the next couple hours, we try to find soot, but it turns out you need a fireplace for soot, or at least a chimney. So Freak finally decides that my idea about using regular dirt will have to do. I've got black dungarees, I say, but no black shirts. Can I just wear a dirty shirt? Freak makes a face and says, what a disgusting idea. Don't worry about the shirt, I'll get you one. Can you manage black socks? You ever notice how long it takes for things to happen when you know they're supposed to happen? My fake Walkman has a built-in alarm, and I set it for 2 in the morning and wear the headphones to bed. But before you can wake up, you have to fall asleep. And I never do fall asleep because I keep waiting for the alarm to go off, which is, I know, typical butthead behavior. I'm lying awake in the dark on a hot summer night and I'm thinking, treasure in the sewer? What kind of quest is this, huh? Is Freak completely making this up or what? Meanwhile, there's this cricket making this creaky cricket noise that is normally okay, except when you're trying to fall asleep, then it's not okay, and you want a big can of Raid, send it to Disney World or Insect Heaven or wherever it is that dead crickets go. Alright guys, so question 3, why can't Max fall asleep at night? We just came across that answer here, so please write down your answer, and we're going to move on to question 4. How do Max and Freak disguise themselves? We're at the top of page 63. Question. How come Freak knows about this stuff in the storm drain? Question. How come we have to put dirt on our faces? Question. How come 3 in the morning? Question. How long do crickets live? Finally, I give up on the first 3 and work on the cricket problem. But the little critter is pretty clever. It stops cricketing whenever I get too close, and I never do find it and squash it with my shoe, which I swear I'm ready to do, even if crickets are supposed to be harmless. And then, after almost forever, it gets to be 2:30, and I figure that's close enough. I'll go up and wait until under Freak's window like I promised. There's no moon. The sky is dark and empty, and the backyards are so lonesome it feels creepy and exciting. The truth is, I've never been out alone this time of night. I only fall down a couple of times, which isn't bad, considering how hard it is to see. When I get to Freak's bedroom window, he's waiting for me. You sound like a car wreck, he says. Here, you better put on this shirt so you don't glow in the dark. Out of the window, he hands me this silly-feeling shirt. Hey, wait a minute. This is your mom's blouse. It's black, he says. That's what counts, the camouflage factor. Forget it, I say, and give him back the Fairgwyn's blouse. Freak sighs. Okay, he says. Roll around on the ground and darken yourself. That's easy, and better than wearing some dumb blouse. What about you? I ask, when I'm covered with dirt enough so I want to sneeze. Freak goes, beware the Force, Earthling. And he stands up in the window and I can see he's got a Darth Vader costume on, except he's not wearing the mask part. He opens the window all the way, and I lift him out, and I put him on my shoulders. He goes, pledge to me your Felty, and I say, huh? And he says, never mind, there's no time to look up Felty, just promise you'll do what I say. I promise. Go to the end of the block, he orders, attempt to conceal us in the shadows. Alright guys, so question 4, how do Freak and Max disguise themselves? We kind of learned a little bit about that early on in the chapter, what their plan was, but now we know exactly how they are disguised, right? We just read that on page 64. So please write down your answer here, alright? And we're starting to figure out the answer for 5. Where are Freak and Max going on their quest? Okay, so we're at the bottom of page 64. I'm going to read this part one more time. We're going to keep going. Go to the end of the block, he orders. Attempt to conceal us in the shadows. That's easy, because the street is one big shadow. It's so dark, I can hardly see my feet. Or maybe I got some dirt in my eyes, but the point is no one sees us because there's no one to see us. You'd never know anybody lived here, let alone a whole block full of people. It's like we're on an empty planet or something. Was the real Darth Vader as tall as this? Freak asks, from where he's riding high up on my shoulders. I thought it was just a movie. You know what I mean. What's that? That is a cat that runs out from under my feet. So out of nowhere sudden that my heart goes wham! Was it a black cat? Freak wants to know. Too dark to tell, I say. Are we almost there? Finally, I figure out it's hard to see because the Darth Vader cape is hanging in my eyes. But by then, we're at the end of the block and the storm drain is right there by the curb. See if you can pull it open, Freak says. He's standing with his arms folded, and the expression on his face, well, he really does look like a pint-sized Darth Vader. I hook my hands in the storm drain grate and give it a heave, but nothing happens. Okay, guys, so we just got the answer here to question 5. Where are Freak and Max going on their quest? Where did they go? Was it far? Where specifically are they right now? Try and write down as many details as you can about it here for question 5. Pause if you need to. And then we're going to move on to question 6. What do they find? How did it get there? And who does it belong to? So 3 in 1. 3 in 1 question. What do they find? How does it get there? And who does it belong to? We're going to keep going here. We're at the top of page 66. I can't budge it. Try again, he says with his arms folded, like he's a lord of the universe. I try again, and it's like the grate is super glued or something. No way can I pull it up. Freak is tugging at my leg, and he goes, Option 2 is now in effect. He reaches inside his little cape, and out comes a flashlight, one of those small kinds that looks sort of like a cigarette lighter, and also a spool of kite string. I devised a special retrieval device, Freak says. Looks like a bent paperclip on a string, I say, and Freak tells me to shut up and follow orders. You hold the string, he says, and then he gets down on his knees and shines the little flashlight through the grate. Can you see it? He asks. Can you? I look, but it's hard to see anything, and it smells like something died in the storm drain, which, come to think of it, it probably did. Rats, or worse. Down there, Freak says. The beam is hitting it right now. That? That's just a piece of junk. Wrong, Freak says, real fierce. It looks like a piece of junk. It may very well contain fabulous wealth. Drop the line down and see if you can hook it. I'm thinking, boy, what a butthead. Rolling in the dirt for this little Darth Vader so he can play pretend games in the middle of the night. But I do what he asks. I drop the hook down, and much to my surprise, it actually hooks into something. And when I pull up on the kite string, I can see what it is. A purse, I say. Looks like a grotty old purse. Careful, Freak says. Pull it up to the grate so I can grab the strap. I bring it up an inch at a time, and Freak manages to get his small hand down through the grate and grab hold of the soggy old purse, and then he almost drops it. I yank it up on the kite string, and we both manage to squeeze the slimy purse up through the bars. Whew! Mission accomplished, Freak says. The old purse is torn and wet, and I don't want to touch it unless I have gloves on. Gross, I say. Somebody must have flushed this down a toilet. No way, Freak says. I saw one of Tony D's punks stuff it down there yesterday morning. Yeah? They must have stole it. No doubt, Freak says, and he opens the clasp and points his little light inside the purse. By now I know there isn't going to be any treasure, but still, this is pretty cool. Recovering stuff that Blade's gang ripped off from some little old lady or whatever. A wallet, Freak says, and he flips open this cheap-looking wallet, the kind that's made to hold credit cards. There's no money inside, but there's a plastic ID card, and on the plastic card is a lady's name. Loretta Lee, Freak says. I'll bet you anything, she's a damsel in distress. Which, as it turns out, is almost true. The real deal is that she's a damsel who causes distress, which we find out the very next day. Alright guys, so we have found the answer here to question 6. What is it that they found in the storm drain? How did it get in there? And who do we figure out that it belongs to? Finish writing your answers. We'll go over these responses together when we're all back in person. Thank you guys for doing chapter 10 with me, and I hope you guys are enjoying your Christmas break. Bye.